Hello world, forgive my wind noise. This here is Corey Lee. I'm sure you probably know that already, but I thought I might say it for the people that just now watch my channel. But I had a quick thing that I wanted to say and talk about today and give you guys some advice on buying gear. Now, I want to tell you guys the biggest mistake that beginners need to avoid when buying or selling new gear or just gear in general. Now, I was reading through the Reddit forums on a particular lens that I used to own when I wasn't really as advanced in photography as I am now. And it was about the Sigma 150 to 600 sport lens. Like when it first came out is when I owned that lens. And I had a particular problem with that lens. And I mean, like, I sold the lens within 8 months of having it. And I haven't really thought too much about it since then until just recently when I just got my 300. And I was saying to myself that this is literally the best telephoto lens I ever had. Dead serious. And I also have the teleconverter on the way now. Once I get the teleconverter, I can actually feel more comfortable about reviewing this lens, because that's an item that was designed for this lens. And like when I do form a rock solid opinion on it, I want to form an opinion on it with and without the accessories that were made for it. So, but other than that, those are just some updates on my 300. I was really thinking about the experience I had with the Sigma 150 to 600 and also various other lenses that I've had in the past, and also, you know, just some things that I read online and some reviews that I watch on YouTube and things like that. And it really kind of got me thinking, you know, that's one of the mistakes that a lot of beginners make, or a lot of gear junkies make, or a lot of gear dependent photographers make, is that they always form rock solid opinions on equipment way too soon. Like, I didn't have a rock solid opinion on my Pentax K1 until 4 years after using it, until 4 years of ownership. I had opinions when I first bought it, but it wasn't for 4 years that all of my opinions began to make sense. All of the opinions that I formed 4 years later began to make sense. And I also kind of thought, like, a lot of beginners waste money on lenses because they do two things, you know, or they do two things wrong, or don't do two things right, or however you want to put it. One, I already talked about it. They form rock solid opinions too soon, way too soon, and they don't really take enough time to learn to master their lenses. You know, if I would have learned to master my 150 to 600, I probably would still have it. If I would have learned to master my, you know, all the Canon L series lenses I had enough money to pay for, I probably would still have them. But, you know, I mean, that's besides the point. I used to sell gear just to have other gear, not because I thought stuff was wrong with it. So, I mean, like, the majority of the gear I ever sold was because I wanted other gear, not because I thought something's wrong with it. But a lot of beginners still make this mistake, and they form rock solid opinions about lenses, negative opinions about lenses, because of one thing and one thing only. A lot of beginners do not take a lot of time mastering their tools, and it causes them to think that their lenses are not that good. They don't take enough time to master photography and understand the laws of how lenses work, no matter how good the lens is, just the law of how they work, period. You know, they don't really have enough of that in the back of their minds when they shoot. You know, they don't have enough of the fundamentals as second nature to them for when they decide to go out and shoot. They don't have enough of the fundamentals of make sure you have a proper shutter speed, you know, but not just the exact shutter speed. You know, make sure you have a high shutter, because you got a lot more pixels to, you know, to stabilize and all that kind of stuff. It's like a lot of beginners don't really consider those kind of things. And so they take an expensive lens that they just got an income tax refund on to be able to purchase, and they shoot it wide open at distances, and they say this lens is not sharp. I want beginners to understand, before you decide to sell your lens, you might even be able to keep the $200 lens you have if only you consider this. You might find yourself wanting to keep, the cheaper stuff you have if you only knew this. Wide open at distances is not where lenses perform the best. So beginners got two reasons why they shoot wide open all the time. First reason is because I bought a wide aperture lens for a reason. Why would I want to stop it down? Okay, that I can understand. And the other reason is I already have a dark lens as it is. I can't afford to stop it down. And what you really don't know is that all lenses work best stop down at least one stop, period. At distances. Up close, within a certain range, wide open might be perfect. 10, 20 feet away, fine. Even 50 feet away, fine. But then you start shooting 200 feet away, you already passed the infinity mark, or darn near close to it, and you're wide open talking about my lens is not sharp. Don't you know that most people shoot bird photos and wildlife images at f8 anyway? You know what I'm saying? Like around the f8 range anyway. Stopping your lens down is not always about getting the best performance, but sometimes it's about getting enough of your subject in focus. And a whole lot of times, you need an f8 aperture at what you're shooting regardless. It's not about just stopping it down. It's like, man, why would I pay all this money for this lens and I gotta stop it down in order for it to work? No, you gotta stop it down because that's the aperture you need for that shot. Or else you're gonna have the beacon focus and the rest of the body is blurred out. You know what I'm saying? Or else you're gonna have two people in that group photo in focus and everybody else blurred out. It's not just about performance, it's about getting the photo correctly. You know what I mean? And that's an opinion that anybody can, have either way. Well, how do you know what they were intending to create? You can't tell them that the aperture they used was incorrect. It's their art. Fine, it's their art. But don't blame your lens for not working right because you want to shoot it wide open with everything. I'm going to shoot this landscape wide open at 1.8. Oh no, my 51.8 is not sharp like everybody said it was. You know what? Spend some more time learning your equipment. Stop buying stuff. Stop selling stuff. Stick with what you have and learn it. Because if you do, you may not ever buy another thing. I promise. You might have money in your pocket to go on a vacation to have photos of other things to take instead of a little bit more sharpness at what you already shot before. A little bit more sharpness at the same stuff you always see. It just doesn't make sense all the time. Instead of selling that lens and replacing it with something a little bit better, you might be able to buy a totally different focal length and have different images to shoot. It's not always about having the most expensive gear. It's not always about having the best gear according to what YouTube reviewers say it is. Sometimes it's just about learning the stuff you have and moving on, So, consider those two things, man. Before you form a rock solid opinion about lenses, make sure you're not trying to shoot everything wide open. And make sure you learn that lens to know what it's good at and what it's not good at what setting, for what kind of image, and things like that. Because you might find yourself never even really needing to upgrade. The only thing you need to upgrade at that point is your skills and your knowledge about the subjects you shoot, so that you can shoot them better. You know? But other than that, you guys have a pretty good day. I'm missing all the birds. 300 is just too short for birds, so I ordered the teleconverter, and I hope that works. If that doesn't serve me too well, I might be moving to the 400 6.7 lens, the M-Star version, or the 600 645 lens. But I don't know. If the teleconverter works on this lens nearly flawless, I know it's not going to be completely flawless, but if it works on this lens nearly flawless, I may not ever buy a 400. I might just be fine with this and just have one lens to carry in my bag, and I can turn it into whatever I want. But I don't know. This lens actually performs really good on the speed booster, so I'm hoping the teleconverter works the same. And it's actually way too sharp. Like, this lens is just too sharp, so I can actually afford a little quality loss in that regard. So I'm just waiting, man. I'm happy, I'm curious, I'm anxious, but other than that, you guys have a pretty good day.